I've currently been watching a lot of Japanese horror in my spare time, and I have a personal love for anything that's Japanese horror. I love the folklore stuff, anything paranormal, supernatural, horror thrillers, but my personal love more than anything is the weird action horror comedies that are so off the wall and so what the hell. Like, anything like that, I'm gonna want to watch it. I've mentioned this one here on my channel before, but Gothic Deleter Battle Bear is a perfect example of the sort of stuff that I love that comes from Japan. Tokyo Gore Police is another one, which is absolutely not for everybody, but that movie is so good. And a movie that happens to be another what the actual hell is going on movie is Dead Sushi from 2012, which was one of the movies that I put in a video where I talked about 6 movies that I wanted to prioritize this summer. But if you don't know anything about Dead Sushi from 2012, let me quickly fill you in. Dead Sushi from 2012 is a Japanese action horror comedy. Kiko, the daughter of a legendary sushi chef, runs away from home when his karate-style regime becomes too severe. Finding work at a rural hot spring inn, she is ridiculed by the president of a pharmaceutical company. When one of the researchers arrives intent on revenge by creating a serum that turns fish on rice into killer sushi, Kiko has to team up with former sushi chef Sawada to fight off the creatures. If you're new here, I go by Hordes, and if you're not new, welcome back. I talk about horror movies here on my channel on Mondays and Fridays, but as always, when it comes to watching movies that I have never seen before, I am now going to go and watch Dead Sushi from 2012 off camera, so that way, if you too decide that you want to watch this off-the-wall action horror comedy from Japan where a man has a fish for a head, nothing will be spoilt for you, because nobody wants to watch a movie you've just watched somebody else watch from start to finish, because you'll then know exactly what's going to happen, and I keep it spoiler free here on my channel.
What the hell just happened?
If you have ever played a Yakuza game, you will completely understand this reference. Dead Sushi is like you are roaming around doing the main story, and then suddenly you are ambushed by a side quest, and a half an hour later you are left absolutely baffled, questioning what the hell just happened, but you know 100% that this has happened somewhere in Tokyo. Like, this movie needs to come with an allergy warning because it is nuts. If you don't like over-the-top acting that leans into like slightly sexy tongue-in-cheek territory, then you will not like Dead Sushi, because this entire movie is played at 120%. It is wild. If I was to try and explain the plot of this movie, I would need one of those bulletin boards covered in push pins and string trying to link everything together, because so much goes on in this movie. We're talking fist and knife fights over the quality of sushi. There is a sushi tornado, there's a woman doing the robot dance, there's sushi nunchucks, there's a talking egg roll called Eggy, like, and this is before we even get to the part with the man for a tuna for a face. Like, there's so much going on in this movie, and you might think, like, Hordes, this sounds like a little bit too much, and I will say, it is, but it's also why I like this movie. You're welcome! I can't help it. I laughed out loud a lot when watching this movie, like, so frequently. And there's even a little bit of gross out horror mixed in with this, which, as we all know by now, I quite like. The CGI in this movie, though, isn't good. In fact, it's terrible, but it's one of the reasons that I think that this movie works, because it is bordering on, like, cartoony, and it works with just how absurd this entire movie is. I mean, an example is when the woman's eyes explode. We're talking like Who Framed Roger Rabbit levels of cartoon here. The practical effects and the prosthetics are equally as weird and off the wall, but they are done really well. I have to give credit to these. Like, they are also bordering on slightly cartoony, which blends in with everything else in this movie. A great example is when a man gets bitten by a squid, and all of a sudden his face starts to transform, and then there's like a reveal which is like gory and bloody, and I love that. And when the two girls have to be human tables, what happens there? Like, it's It's certainly not going to be for everyone, Dead Sushi. I'll say that immediately. But what I love in absurd horror movies is when you give me an unrealistic amount of blood. We are talking, it doesn't look like it's ever going to end, fire hydrants spraying blood everywhere. And that's Dead Sushi, and it goes so well with this like weird horror, comedy, action, like it's relentless. I have to take a second though to talk about Eggy, who is the egg sushi. Yes, he is a character, and I did not know that I needed this little character in my life because he is the hero that we do not deserve, but we all drastically need. Like, it's amazing. Who thought I would get attached to a tiny little sushi roll puppet? Because I didn't think that going in. I just thought I was going to be in for a wild ride with the plot. I wasn't expecting a wild ride with the characters either.
They're relentless!
There is even a scene in Dead Sushi that is a parody of the movie Tampopo from 1985. If you have never seen the egg yolk kiss scene, do yourself a favour and go and Google it. And then you too can cringe at the most bizarre kiss that you have ever seen on film. It is certainly something. But what Dead Sushi does is it does a replica of this scene, makes it a parody, and then adds singing sushi to it. Like, I lost it when Egg Sushi started singing. I was pleasantly surprised though at the action sequences in this. I was expecting the horror and the comedy to completely overwhelm, and surprisingly it didn't. So did I know that I needed a fist and knife fight sequence over the quality of sushi? No. Did I know that I needed humans being bitten by sushi and then turning into rice-filled zombies, only for that to then burst out into a fight sequence that involved sushi nunchucks? No, but I do now, and I would quite happily watch more of this wild comedy, horror, action sequence thing that was Dead Sushi. Like, I have never seen anything that was quite like this, and that is saying something, because at this point I have seen so many of the weird variety of Japanese horror that is out there. Like, the weirder the better, and this is up there. While Dead Sushi isn't perfect, I had such a good time with this movie, and I will 100% rewatch this at some point. So sorry to my girlfriend, because I am going to make her watch this, because it is absolutely something that she would enjoy, because it's so out there. So in the end, I am actually going to give Dead Sushi from 2012 a 4 out of 5 stars. And I understand that my rating is probably going to be a lot higher than a lot of people's ratings for this movie, but I love a weird horror comedy that isn't afraid to go there and gives me the unexpected, and that is 100% what Dead Sushi was. I never knew what the next like twist and turn was going to be, but I laughed out loud every single time. So there you have it, my initial thoughts and my review from my first time watching Dead Sushi from 2012. If you've seen this movie, I would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are on this wild movie down in the comment section down below. Are you going to skip this one, or are you going to go out and watch it? I will leave a link to the website justwatch.com in my description bar, so that way you can find out where it is streaming in your country. If you would like to know every single horror movie I watch though, not just the ones here on YouTube, you can also find me over on Instagram and Letterboxd at HordesOfHorror, or maybe even stick around and join the Horde here on YouTube. I will be back on Friday with another solo movie review, and this time for Pride Month I will be watching a movie from 2005, which is a slasher movie that was made by LGBTQ+ people with LGBTQ+ characters and actors. So until next time, bye.